everybody. Welcome to Marvel Champions Monthly. We are a fan podcast about the card game Marvel Champions. I'm one of your hosts, Kennedy Hawk, and I've got a full crew with me today. So we've got Attercop. How's it going, Attercop?
Pretty good. Pretty happy to be here and pretty happy to be talking about some Spider-Man stuff. Spider stuff.
You're hanging out. Okay. We've got Crimson. How's it going, Crim?
It's going pretty good. I'm also excited to talk about a lot of this stuff, even though I'm never been the biggest Spider-Man fan. Some of these I really do enjoy.
Well, that's good to hear. And we've got special guest Andy N subbing in for Americano. How's it going?
Good. I'm so pleased to be here. Thanks for having me. Always excited to talk about Spider-Man.
So you're supposed to pretend to like protection cards since you're Americano, but we won't make you do that.
No,
It's okay.
I actually do like protection, and leadership is actually the one that I usually am not always a fan of. So
where's the ban button? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I got you covered on protection too, because man, wow, this is going to be good.
Well, let's get right to it, right? So today we're kicking off our 2 to 3 episode. We're not still fully decided because we might talk way too much. Coverage of the Sinister Motives campaign box. And as per tradition, since this is the 4th box, for the 4th time, we'll kick off our first episode talking about the 2 new heroes and all the player cards they come with. Who's excited? This is the fun part, right?
Who are those 2 new heroes?
2 new heroes are Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider. And we've got our little order here of how we're going to go through things. So we're going to talk about these heroes. Andy's going to tell us all about Miles, and then we'll talk about Miles' cards, our favorite things, our least favorite things about Miles, and stuff like that. Krim's going to go over the Justice cards. I'll go over the Ghost Spider cards, and Attercop will go over those protection cards, and any other cards that came in that hero's like back 25. Oh, and I should mention that we have an MCM challenge for this episode, just like we do for most of our main show episodes. So your MCM challenge this week is to become one of Spidey and his amazing friends. You will need to climb great heights to do what is right. The Spidey team, they will be on the scene. What you're going to do, your mission, if you accept it, is to play as any combination or solo with Ghost Spider, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man Peter Parker, and his amazing friends, Hulk, Black Panther, and Miss Marvel. So any combination or any solo from those 6 heroes against a Mutagen formula with the City and Chaos modular set. So you're going to reenact an episode of my children's favorite show, Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Green Goblin is stealing the ice cream and throwing it at people and turning them into goblins, and who knows, Rhino might show up and be the Wazzle Snook or whatever. But check out the show notes to click and submit your results and tell us just how much fun you had being one of the kids from Spidey and His Amazing Friends. There you go.
Just before we get too far ahead, just for our listeners, for our European and I think Canadian listeners, he may be in your box as Kilometers Morales. So that's important to distinguish.
Ha.
Oh God,
Ha.
that hurt. That's probably hurt.
You know what? I would vote for the metric system in the U.S. too. So I'm with you. Captain America would be disappointed in me. All right, and then to change things up at the end, I've got a set of. Right now, it's only 5, but I'm trying to think of a 6th one. 6 rapid-fire questions about these heroes that I'm going to ask all the other hosts. You're going to have to answer them, and then we'll give our final grades for Ghost Spider and Spider-Man Miles.
Sounds great.
So, Andy, without further ado, take it away on Miles.
Perfect. That sounds great. All right. So Miles Morales. By the way, you can follow along at home with his cards if you go to Hall of Heroes, lcg.com. They've got all the cards there. You can go to Sinister Motives and see his whole kit. But Miles Morales is, let's see, I'm trying to think. I was trying to think, pick my words carefully here. He is one of the most powerful heroes that we now have. He's a very status-heavy hero, which I think the two are very closely connected. So he has easy access to stunning, confusing, and making himself tough. And he also has the ability to just remove a bunch of threat and deal a ton of damage. And his really has very little vulnerability with all those statuses. But if he does have vulnerability, it might mainly be based on his small hit points, I would say, which is only 9. And he only has a moderate defense stat of just 2. And he has a bit of a funny cadence for some people, I would say. And that's why I think that I've been interested to see people's response to him, because even with all the ability to stun and confuse, there are some people who, think he's the next Doctor Strange, and some people who just don't quite, haven't quite seen his power hit the table yet. And I think that might have to do a little bit with his interesting cadence of play. He has a really fascinating card called Double Life, which is a one-cost event, energy resource, max 1 per round. Action, change your form. So notice that it's action, not hero action or alter ego action. It's action, change your form. If you pay for this card using a physical resource, ready your identity, which I think is a really super interesting card, because I think, am I right, guys, that the only other card that changes your form like that is, like, the only similar card really is She-Hulk's
Split personality.
split personality. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really huge thing, so he has this interesting interplay between alter ego and hero form, and I think that might be some people's difficulty if they do have any difficulty with him. Other people, I'm sure, have not had difficulty with him and have just stunned and confused their way to victory. But yeah, he's very different than the typical Spider-Man. He's got 2 thwarts instead of the 1 thwart. And he only has that 2 defense instead of 3 defense. So he's doing a lot more thwarting than Peter Parker is, but a lot less defending, since he has worse defense. He has a great recover of 4, and he has that toughness. So he's rarely defending. So he's a good counterpoint to Gwen, who I won't talk about yet, but she, I think, has a lot of defending versus I don't know if I've almost ever defended with Miles. And so that's just a brief introduction to him. I'm sure we'll talk about him more as we talk about some of our favorite cards. But yeah, what are some of your guys' favorite cards of his?
I mean, as a She-Hulk fan, Double Life was instantly, yeah, this is the card that I like.
Right.
Same with another card in Ghost Spider. And I'm just like, Double Life is great. I do like his 2 personalities that come with him. I think they're both incredibly interesting and fun to play with, especially Lee. Lee is really good.
Lee is really good. I was not impressed with Spider-Man's dad.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I never need threat removed from the threat with the least scheme. I need it removed from the threat with the most scheme, because that's where I'm having a problem.
I wish it was an action instead of an alter ego action, or remove 2 threat. Or 2 threat.
At the same time, I do think Miles, more than any character, has the capability to dip into alter ego form and flip back out because of that double life. So you can still get a lot of use of Jefferson. And my favorite card from Miles is actually Miles himself. When you flip to alter ego form, you get to shuffle one of your Spider-Man cards back into your deck. So you can flip in another double life. You can put in one of those status condition giving cards, and you can really seed your deck with like exactly what you need to solve your problem that's coming up in the next turn. But from his 15 cards, my favorite card is Web Shot, and I think it's like super overlooked. I've seen a lot of people talk about how he's inconsistent and like he's not that great and blah 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 blah. I saw some of that online, and I was just shocked because a lot of people were saying he's really bad at spreading damage and dealing with minions. But I think Web Shot is probably his best way of spreading damage. So it's a 2-cost event with hero action attack. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. If you paid using an energy resource, resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability, which lets you do 2 damage to an enemy and stun that enemy. So you can deal 4 to a minion, kill the minion, and then do 2 to the villain and stun it. Or you can do 4 to 1 minion, 2 to another minion and stun it, and now you've got another turn before you have to worry about its activation. And you can make like a really efficient minion clearing character using Spider-Man. And I think Web Shot is really the key to that.
Yeah, it's an incredible card. The fact that you can split the damage, which again, like you said, people might not notice immediately that the Venom Blast, there's nothing that says that the Venom Blast has to be towards the same enemy. as the web shot itself, and so it's incredible to be able to split that damage for sure. Here's one thing I was thinking about that was interesting. So if you look at the resource distribution of him, it is a little interesting. So I love heroes that have that are looking for specific resources to trigger things, and Miles is very much so that. There's 7 of his cards don't require resources to play them, but require resources to get the actual great like kicker that you actually that makes the card actually worthwhile. So for double life, that's the physical resource to get the ready. For swing in, it's a mental resource to get his spider camouflage, which is confuse an enemy and give Spider-Man a tough status, which is incredible. And then web shot, it's energy resource for the venom blast to get the 2 damage and stunning an enemy.
I will say the web shooters definitely help him that.
Yes, so the web shooters are extremely helpful. So he has 2 web shooters that are exactly like Peter Parker's. They even reuse the same art, and that wild resource is way more necessary than the wild resource really isn't. I love web shooters for Peter Parker. I think they're super helpful, but I use them. I don't usually care as much about the wild nature of the resources they generate. Whereas for Miles, it's almost always like essential that you're using that wild resource to get the kicker of a card. But that being said, but if you look at it, it's like, okay, swing in has energy resource, but you're never going to spend a swing in to play a web shot if you can ever help it, because swing in is so powerful. You'd love to play both of them. And similarly, I mean, double life is a great card. So if you're planning to play double life and you want to play swing in, you really might not have energy resources easily at hand to trigger web shot. So my main thing I would say, just to jump into like a suggestion to somebody, is I think you should pack a pretty substantial number of energy resources. That's my opinion.
This is what I did for my deck building with him. So I played a couple games in each aspect before this to make sure I knew how he worked in each aspect.
Yeah.
And what I learned by the time I got a couple games into each aspect is I would look at like my resource distribution. And if I had a ton of lightning resources, I would include enhanced awareness and enhanced physique. And if I had a bunch of physicals to trigger all my double lives, then I would include the enhanced of the other resource types. And I would just run power in all of us, because power in all of us can always be a wild to trigger those events.
Exactly.
And like you said, if you have a web shot and swing in hand, and you can play both. So you can remove 4 threat from a scheme, hit the villain for 6, stun the villain, confuse the villain, and gain tough. And you can do all of that with like 6 cards in hand. So you only have to play one of those enhanced resources, and you can do that on any given turn without any other shenanigans. Like, that's insane. So I think it's totally worth running those enhanced, because when you do smooth out your turn and get to do that, people across the table are going to be like, what are you doing? And why are you playing a different game than me? Because you just shut down like 4 villain turns or something like that.
Yeah, the combo of power in all of us and any of the enhanced, I think is the immediate answer for me. Like in deck building, I need any kind of type, just because there's such a low fail rate on it. And obviously the function of power in all of us extends beyond the enhanced batteries. But I mean, obviously the intention is just to drop your resources right out of the gate. But in the late game, it is a resource match, and it powers up, Helicarrier or Avengers Mansion, or at this point in the game, we have so many good basic cards. Like there's almost no downside.
Yeah, I agree.
I ended up using a couple of the battery cards. Battery means they come into play. They web shooters would be what I would consider a battery style card, where it just stores up and then you can use the stuff. But I also ended up using Resourceful, the 0 cost one, a lot more. I enjoyed that one a lot more. I'm generally a big fan of that card to begin with. And the fact that it costs 0, I put it out as soon as I get it. And it generates a wild at a later resource when I need it. Between that and the web shooters was all I ended up cutting down to and needing. instead of having to go for the more, this one produces lightning, this one produces. I just went with the resourceful. Yes, it doesn't last as long, but it would get me through in a pinch until I got the web shooters out. The web shooters are mainly what I used. Plus the Quinn Carrier, which produces the wild, also was really
definitely.
helpful.
He's not
Definitely.
an Avenger, though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But it does produce a wild. He is right.
He
Yeah,
can
it
get-
does produce wild.
He can be an
For
Avenger
Hawkeye, who you're playing
pretty
with,
quickly.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just played the game with two-handed with Hawkeye, and Hawkeye named him an honorary Avenger, and
No, he had
it
that
was,
authority.
it was great.
And the thing is, like, there are so many Avenger characters out there. I mean,
Exactly.
I'll be honest, my playgroup does not play with a lot of the Guardians characters. I don't know why. The only one I honestly see most of the time is Drax, and the rest of the Guardians I don't see that much. So a lot of my 2 and 3 player games that I've actually been playing more multiplayer games lately at the card shop, and a lot of them are playing Thor
Yes.
and Black Panther. I mean,
Nice.
I'm like, did we lose a year or something?
These
But
are high
tho-
society people. I am a fan of their choices.
those are the very popular ones. Normally, I bring Doctor Strange, but
Are you
I
playing
feel
with
I've been-
me, Grim? Are we actually playing together, like Thor and
don't
Black
know.
Panther? Yeah.
Are you in Sioux Falls?
Funny you
But-
mentioned.
Yeah, it's that has been my play group, has been a lot of like older heroes being revisited with a lot of these newer cards.
So awesome. I'm so happy to hear that.
That's great. That's great.
So
What
what's
I'm
your
hearing from
favorite
all this-
card? Oh, yeah. Go for
I
it.
just want to circle back and say that what I'm hearing from this is actually, I'm connecting something I heard in my heard earlier about Miles, which was someone said just make sure you're playing his cards, and you'll probably be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with that is most of his cards do require specific resources to get that killer kicker, and so make sure you are figure out the resource game for him. Which it sounds like some of the best ways to do that is have these batteries, like the enhanced reflexes type of cards, for maybe the resources that you don't have a ton of that resource type in your deck, so you can make sure you get those kickers. But you were
Yeah.
going to say, what's your favorite?
Well, I was actually so before later I was going to tell that story, so I'll tell it right
sorry.
now. But yeah, so when we played our first 3-player campaign with my group that usually plays 3-player expert everything, my wife had some friends over, and one of her coworkers was like, I want to play a game. I love playing games. And he's played card games with us before. So he came down to the game room and was playing with me and my buddies, and we were playing against Sandman. And I gave him a Miles deck that had all those enhanced resources in it. And that's exactly what I told him. I was like, this is how resources work. This is how attacking and thwarting works. Basically, draw your hand and then look for a Spider-Man symbol in the bottom right corner. And if you just spam those cards, we're going to win.
Yeah.
And like without having ever played before or having any idea how to play the game other than a 5-minute tutorial, that was like our MVP player for the whole game. And it was just crazy. So yeah, those batteries that like drip out resources over multiple turns are like super good. But yeah, my question was going to be for everybody, what is your favorite card, or what do you think your favorite card would be with Miles from your favorite aspect? So we'll start with Krim and say, what's your favorite Justice card to play with Miles?
Oh, I mean, so I like to play the precon. I'm a big fan of the precons. And it's just knowing his precon, if you looked at it, it's a lot of shield stuff. Actually, the newer card, the Chang, was a very fun experience, and I was not expecting to like her at all.
That's the 3-cost ally that. So
Yeah.
have her up
Oh,
here.
so here I can read her out.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Since she's going to be a Justice card, I'm going to talk about later. Monica Chang, she is a 3-cost, 1 thwart, 1 consequential, 1 attack, 1 consequential, 2 health, shield, response. After you play her, after she enters play, search your deck, hand, and discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team. Okay, so their wording's a little wrong here. It's this. search for a copy of Surveillance Team Support. Card is not called Surveillance Team Support. It is Surveillance Team, and it is a support card.
Mm.
They probably should have took off the word support because it is not technically in the title of the card.
Oh, that is weird, yeah.
And put it into play. Then place one snoop counter on each surveillance team you control. So normally surveillance team comes in with like 3. So this can get you a little extra. Now, I don't think surveillance team is all that great in general. If we go back to the very first podcast where we talked about the core box, I was very unhappy with surveillance team.
But if you play surveillance team with the one true Snoop Dogg, you get
with Miss Chang, and then all the other interesting things that deal with shield stuff being in play. I felt it was rather fun. So yeah, I liked her. I don't know if it's just because she came with Miles that I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense. Maybe she'd be better with a shield character, but I still had a blast with playing. When I was playing Miles, she was the character I was looking for.
So you're saying it's like the Drake meme, paying for a surveillance team, but free surveillance team with an ally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm seeing in my head right now. All right. Attercop, what was your favorite aggression card? Or what do you think the best aggression card to include of Miles is?
Okay. Well, Kennedy, Krim, Andy. I'm a simple man. I always go for the same thing because I like to do it.
Oh, I know the answer.
The answer, and I didn't get a chance to say my favorite card before, but that's fine because I'm doing it now, and that's all that matters. It's Web Shot. It is 100% Web Shot because it does 2 things that I want to be doing, which is A, dealing damage, and B, stunning. Sub to A, being able to split the damage, that is ridiculous. Like, if you have a 4-player game and your Miles player is like, I'm going to take care of all the minions I know we're going to run into, and they're packing stuff like Web Shot and Melee and, Relentless Assault, there is not a minion that will survive, and they will just keep pumping damage out, and that's insane. Like, all those choices, just when you're out there clobbering, you may actually be clobbering, but like that is the best aggression card, Web Shot.
Isn't that not an aggression card? Well, what's your favorite card from the aggression aspect, though?
Wait, what?
Hmm?
Favorite card from the aggression aspect?
Yeah, what's your
To
favorite
play
card
with
from
Miles.
aggression to play with Miles?
Oh, wow. I was on the opposite side of that question.
I was like, what is he talking about? Is he
I
trying
was-
is this a long con?
No, I got it. I understood where
I
he
was-
was coming from.
I was
I
stuck on the
got you,
last question.
Attercop.
I was stuck on the last question because I didn't get to say my favorite card. That's what it is. That was what it is. All right. Well, I mentioned a bunch of cards there, so I'm actually going to go with Melee.
Yeah.
Just because, like, it helps you split more damage, which might be a silly reason, but I
What's
think
the
that it's
resource on Melee?
mental.
Oh, which you're probably running low on anyways in an aggression deck, so works good with the swing-ins.
It does help with the swing in. But yeah, I mean, just because his other attacks that I mentioned, splits up damage, Melee splits up damage, gives you more targets, gives you more versatility. It is kind of expensive, obviously, but what can you do about that?
Yeah. All right, Andy. What about protection?
Ooh. Protection. I'm trying to think if I've played him in protection yet, to be totally frank. Because I've been playing a ton of Ghost Spider and a lot of protection with her. Let's see. For protection for him,
Gotta be Night Nurse, right?
what was that?
It's gotta be Night Nurse, right?
Night Nurse. I do love Night Nurse. I do love the Night Nurse. Honestly, that honestly might be my first and final answer. I'm a huge Night Nurse proponent, and she would definitely go into the deck. Oh, I'm thinking that you're also referencing the fact that that's his mom, right, in the picture.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is.
And the other thing too is like Miles, him getting stunned
Yeah.
sucks.
Yep.
Oh, it's horrible. So, anything that can remove stun would be a great card to go with him.
Yeah, you're so right. She's like his Aunt May almost. Like that's great. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Night Nurse. I might be the biggest fan of Night Nurse. Honestly, I would fight. She's in almost every single one of my protection decks. I think she's great, and of course, especially because she's not just good for you. She's good for anybody who is who's also vulnerable to being stunned.
Yeah.
Hey, you use your Night Nurse on other people?
Oh yeah, all the
No.
time.
What kind of cooperative
When I-
game is this?
When I play with
No.
when I play with Kennedy, he's just like, "Oh, that looks like a you problem," even though he's got all of his tokens.
You know what? I played that Captain Marvel deck where I just passed you cards all day one time. Doesn't that
Yeah.
count for anything?
It averages out.
Okay. Well, as a greedy leadership player, my favorite card is Kalu, because when he enters play, you get to go search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event, so you can grab whatever Spider-Man event shows up, because it's going to be the best event you've ever seen, and then you can play it. And it just works out.
And it just
So
works.
It just works. I thought you were going to go Brother Voodoo, and I was going to say, well, I'll do you one better, a cheaper Brother Voodoo.
Cheaper Brother Voodoo.
But
Brother
but you
Voodoo
took
would be a
Night
good
Nurse, and
one.
I respect that.
I like Brother Voodoo as well. Actually, that'd be a good one. You know what my favorite aggression one is? Sorry to jump in on that, but Audacity, that was called, right? The resource card is actually really fun with him because again, it's a wild resource, and so he'll be using that, and it's a free damage, and I don't know, it can help you against those villains who maybe have toughness before you lay down some a big hit.
And it's more damage spread, this is what I'm into right now.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Audacity. Try it out.
All right. Well, we should move on to the next topic, which is Crimson telling us all about the new Justice and Basic cards for Miles' deck.
Yeah, so at first I thought I was going to hate these Justice cards. I was like, what is this pile of blah? There's still a couple cards in here that I'm just like, but let's go through it. So I did talk about Chang already. I think
Snoop Dogg.
I think if you're using this package, and that's really how you have to look at this, is a theme package. None of these cards really feel that good by themselves. She's good. I'm the one I was not a fan of was Spider-Woman. She is 3 for a 1 thwart, 2 attack with 2 consequential damage for 3 health, and she has a reduced cost to player for each confused enemy in play, which is fine. You're playing Justice. You have ways to confuse. If you can drop her down to 3, she's not bad, but that 2 consequential damage is not needed at all. Like, she could have just been a 3 for a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's pretty
Be
brutal.
fine. Yeah, the 2 consequential damages, I think, a mistake in my opinion. Though she does have the Web Warrior trait and the Shield trait, that does bring me to the next point. I wish they'd, errata the original Spider-Man and the Spider-Woman to add Web Warrior to them. That would be incredibly fun. So this package consists of cards like Homeland Intervention, cost 0, action. Exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control and choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from the scheme for each card exhausted this way. So, in essence, this could be 0 for 6 threat. Not that bad of a card. But you really need to be playing this full package because you've got to have 3 things out in play that have shield on them. And this is an event, so this obviously doesn't work for itself. So then we really got to start looking, and that is the one for like kind of removing threat. They have another one, the logistics, which lets you exhaust 1 shield card to look at the top 4 cards of a player deck or the encounter deck and discard any cards among them. And then you can stack the deck top or bottom. This is actually a really good card because it's a lot easier to pull off. You only need 1 thing that has shield in play, and you can pretty much look at the top 4 cards of the enemy deck and be able to plan out the turn if you're playing in a multiplayer game, or plan out your next couple turns. Or dig, look through the top 4 of your deck and be able to see what your next hand is, and you're like, oh, I don't need this card. Let's put that one on the bottom or discard it. But again, you need shield stuff in play. So that brings us to Surveillance Team, which is a shield card. It's the one from the core set. Cost 2, comes in with 3 counters. You can tap it and remove a counter to remove a threat from it. But Field Agent is the new Persona card. It is not unique. So this is a Persona card that you can have more than one in play. Cost 1, support. Uses 3 backup counters. Hero Interrupt. When a shield ally would take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust Field Agent and remove 1 backup counter from it to prevent 1 of that damage. I'm assuming that's the reason why Spider-Woman had 2 consequential damage, because they didn't want her to have 0 consequential damage because of this card. But I also worry that we're going to see a lot more cards that have like 3 consequential damage and 2 consequential damage just because they have the keyword shield on them, which I think is going to be a disservice for the game. That means this card becomes required versus not required. But it is a card that can sit on the table and be used with either the logistics or the intervention, which I think the package as a whole is interesting, and paired with a lot of the more basic shield cards like Mockingbird and a couple other ones who have shield traits on them, could be very, very interesting. Now, we did get a couple more shield basic allies. We got Agent 13, which I'm still on the fence with. She costs 4 with 4 health, 2 thwart, 1 attack. Response: after Agent 13 attacks or thwarts, choose a shield support and ready that support. I think she's a little expensive, but she does have a very high health group there. I doubt you're going to really be blocking with her, even though her health is pretty strong. Getting the ability to untap things is not bad, and it does say choose a shield support. So you won't be able to untap your allies, but stuff like Surveillance Team and Field Agent could be untapped or readied. Sorry. It is a little tough because it is only support and not upgrades or allies. I don't know if 4 is worth it. 4 might be a little too spendy. And here's what I was talking about. So Dum Dum Durgan. Cost 5, 3 thwart, 3 consequential damage, 2 attack, or 3 attack, 2 consequential damage, and 5 health. I mean, on its face, it's not bad. Like, it's the same as 1 for 1, right? Except for in the attack, you're actually making more on the attack because it's at greater than a 1-to-1 basis. But that shock value of seeing 3 on there is rough. He's interesting though. He costs 5. He's got 5 hit points. He's 3/3 shield. When you use one of his basic powers, you can exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control. For each card exhausted this way, Durgan gets +1 to that power. So in combination with Field Agent, you can reduce that a little bit more. He could be a very heavy beater. I don't know. How did you guys feel about these two, at least?
I love Agent 13 because I think with some of the older heroes, she has really cool combos. Like with Captain Marvel, your Alpha Flight Station is a shield location, which is exhaust, discard 1 card to draw 2 in Carol Danvers form. So now you can discard 2 to draw 4, like every turn. So I've seen people that build leadership decks around Agent 13, just like keeping her healthy and buffing her stats, and then using Captain Marvel to draw 50 cards a turn. And it works insane.
That is a very. I did not, see that combo, but yeah, it's just that 4 did scare me from playing her too much. But I
haven't
think
played
that can
her
have some fun.
at all yet, but I really want to play her, and I always forget that Dum Dum Dugan exists, and I have to actually play him. But they both, the expensive cost definitely scares me, because I look at the zero cost of Homeland Intervention, and that's, to me, that's I love those low cost decks. So yeah, I really want to try both of them more.
I do have Agent 13 in a Hawkeye deck, and I get her out with Government Liaison, and
Yes,
she's
actually, I
really
think I may
there
have played
to she's there to ready Sky Destroyer, so that like Homeland Intervention now removes 3 thwart and deals 2 damage, which is insane if you can do that like twice in the same turn, or if you do that and Global Logistics, you're just blowing things up like crazy.
Yeah.
Hawkeye Shield is super fun. There's one thing I'll say about the Shield, the whole Shield team and everything that it does, is I do think it is a really great example of something that takes a little bit of time to build, but anyone can really build it. And once you really don't have to have a Shield tag anywhere on your alter ego or anything to be able to justify making a Shield deck. And it takes time to build. You gotta be clever about how you do it. But once it's built, some crazy things. Like, I mean, the Sky Destroyer will just keep dishing out damage. The Homeland Intervention feels like you're cheating to just remove 6 threat for 0 cost. Global Logistics feels like you're cheating when you're just organizing the cards on top of the encounter deck. And so it's been an interesting. I've been looking at the game sort of through this lens of like people like Hawkeye or really Spider-Man are really good at dishing out statuses, but having something that goes along with that's sort of on a different track towards like a longer game victory condition is really nice. And so that's what I've been kind of enjoying, is taking these heroes who can handle themselves in the meantime. Spider-Man maybe more so than Hawkeye in general, and then build that tough status. You gotta be
Hawkeye slam out of nowhere.
sorry. But building towards that big shield finish is pretty cool. And I have to say too, just really quick on Global Logistics, I always like 2 things about it. I always confuse it in my hand with Homeland Intervention because they're both 0 cost shield tactic events with similar looking dark shield pictures. But so I typically I'm like, I'm going to play this as Homeland Intervention, and I realize that it's not Homeland Intervention. But when you play it, the best time I like to use Global Logistics is when I'm playing 2-player, or I should say 2-handed. 2-handed. So if I'm playing 2 different heroes at the same time, because what you can do is you can basically organize the whole set of cards on top, and you can think, okay, well, I'm going to be an alter ego, so I want the 0 boost card to be on top. So that's what is drawn for the scheme, and then you can handle how much damage. Let's see, Ghost Spider, if she defends, can actually handle a 2 boost. So I'll put the 2 boost next. And she knows what's coming, so she knows what she needs to do to defend and still, prevent all the damage or whatever it is, and get all of her kickers. And then the next 2 cards are, cards that I'm comfortable seeing as actual encounter cards for those specific heroes. It kind of feels like since you're the one running both decks, you kind of can plan that out with a ton of great planning.
I even like it in solo for that reason, because you can plan out your current turn, and then you know what's coming next turn, so when you get your hand of cards, you're like, oh, I don't need to stun him because I put a 0 boost there, or, oh, I really need to stun him because I put a 3 boost there because I didn't want to see Under Fire as a treachery card or something.
Or if you're playing Miles, you know what the next 4 turns are, because you're going to be stunning and confusing the villain.
I will say Homeland Intervention is a really strong card, because it's not a thwart, so it gets around Confuse and still lets you remove threat.
Uh-huh.
And it's not linked to hero action. So like Hawkeye and Spider-Woman are shield alter egos, so you can remove threat in alter ego form by exhausting your identity card using
And
Homeland
Steve
Intervention.
Rogers.
Yep, which I was definitely gonna bring that up because what I'd been looking at had been a Spider-Woman
Yep.
shield deck with leadership, justice.
Yep. Played it. It's great. The Triscallion is a great target for all this.
Yep.
All right. One question about the shield stuff, and then should we move on? So we're
Oh,
keep moving, or do you got more to go through?
There's still a ton
Oh
more.
my
That was
goodness.
that was only the hero.
Speed it up. I'm just kidding.
So government
Typical shields, really slow.
government liaison is a 2-cost support. Persona shield also
French is
again
gorgeous, Crim.
another persona that is not unique. Hero action, you can exhaust it and play a shield card from your hand, reducing its cost by 1. Now, this is a little bit different, and this is where some rules are going to come in, and this is why I wanted to talk about this card a little bit more. It says you have to play the card, so it's not reduce the next card like Helicarrier. So if you have 2 of these in play, you cannot tap them both to reduce the next shield card by 2.
Correct. But you can combine them with Helicarrier and reduce it by 2.
Yes.
Okay.
They just don't combine together. So that was an important thing that I had actually seen a couple times in the play group, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to bring that up because if you didn't notice it, the what
is that kind of like Def Focus? Doesn't Def Focus work the same way, or can you use multiple?
It's like team building exercise, is what it's like.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah. So that's sort of like indicative of maybe going forward design is that they don't want us to just kind of sit on all these discounts that we get stacked up.
I think so, yeah. Sky Destroyer is a unique shield vehicle that came out. After you play a shield card, you can exhaust it to deal 2 damage to an enemy. You guys had mentioned this one earlier. It does cost 3, so it is a little bit on the spendy side, but I think the amount of value you get out of this card is insane. And then we do have the Ghost Spider and Spider-Man basic minions. I believe that's a Peter Parker Spider-Man. He costs 3, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Web Warrior, he has a new skill called Requirement. So while paying for this card, spend the listed resources. And the requirement is 1 lightning, or 1 energy, 1 mental, and 1 physical. So that's all 3. Have we seen this on anything else before this? This is the first time we've seen this, right?
This is that's a new like ability type or cost type. Yep.
I like it because I'm a Magic player and I'm used to having restrictions with my energy, with my resources. I'm sure a lot of people do not like it. His ability is after he attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior and ready that character. Incredible card, incredibly strong card. But the requirement is super interesting. And I like that it may give us stronger cards at a cheaper cost, but a more restrictive cost.
I like it because I'm pretty sure Make the Call ignores it. So
True. Also, another point
as does Across the Spider-Verse. Okay. Sorry about that.
Or the Skyjet or whatever, the one that puts them into play. Ghost Spider costs 3 for a 1, 2, 3. Play only if you control a Web Warrior card. This is one of the reasons why I want Spider Woman to be eroded to a Web Warrior, because I want to put Ghost Spider in there. Interrupt. When Ghost Spider leaves play, search your deck for an identity-specific event card and add it to your hand. Shuffle. That's super good. I wish it was interplay instead of leaving play, but I will take it.
Yeah. Good cards. I actually, the only card I don't like from the back of Miles' kit is I don't think their team up card is very good.
Yep, and that was the only card I didn't go over. Yeah, it pretty much heal 3 damage. It's kind of bad. Great art, kind of bad.
All right, My question for the shield package for everybody is: who is your favorite hero to run the shield package in?
Considering it's the only one that I was thinking about making it in, that'd be Spider-Woman.
Good choice.
Yeah, I have to say Spider-Woman as well, although I have enjoyed it really with everyone I've done it with, including Hawkeye. It's been some of the most enjoyable Hawkeye games.
I have to be a Hawkeye stan and say Hawkeye. But the reason is Mockingbird, your signature ally, has the shield trait. So if you can get a Sky Destroyer down and a government liaison and helicarrier down, you can just play Mockingbird for 1 every turn. You can cancel the villain attack and then replay her the next turn, use Sky Destroyer to deal 2, use her to thwart 2, and just continuously cancel villain attacks and just trivialize the game. I mean, it does take a 2 and 2/3 cost cards in play to get it going, but once it's going, you're just laughing at the villain as nothing happens.
There is another hero that I've been thinking about, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to burn for this. I was honestly thinking of Miss Marvel.
Oh my gosh! I was going to say he's not going to say Miss Marvel.
Yeah, just because being able to bounce those 0 cost events back to your hand with her, like that's how she works, right?
I don't think you can.
Really?
She can only bounce attacks and thwarts. Those
Ah,
are tactics.
good. I don't have to play Miss Marvel. Yes,
It's on the record and it's reported. So
Yeah, I'm gonna cut this middle piece out and just leave that part in.
we're gonna release it as a short on YouTube, and it'll be like 6 seconds long.
Yeah, she was the only other character that I was thinking about, but I don't even know where she's at. She's in one of my boxes because I refuse to play her.
What about you, Attercop?
For me, as usual, it's actually Cap. You know, like because in the early days of this game, this is the kind of deck that I actually wanted to play Cap with. I wanted to represent when he was director asterisk of Shield, and the playstyle that has emerged from these cards is just so cool. Like, you know, it does take a while to set up, and that's fun. But in a hero that's already like a utility problem solver, you are literally the table's problem solver. Like a lot of times that falls to the leadership player, where they're like, "Oh, can you deal 1 here? Cool. Can you thwart 2 here? Cool. Can you take this punch? Sure." But because of like action advantage that he has built in, and because of like the ally reduction for Dum Dum Dugan, Dugan actually just becomes a hammer with Steve.
Yeah.
Like that's you're reliably getting your 6 damage off 2, maybe 3 times Dum Dum, and that's insane. That's I've been wanting to play, and there it is.
I have played it with Cap, and you want to know a secret? I cheated, and I took Cap's Agent 13 and replaced it with the basic one. Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody.
I had
but,
to.
Hey,
don't tell anyone. But it's still fun that way. So
have you tried cheating? Like
I did, and it was fun.
Just try cheating. Had a good time. Played it wrong. Had a great time.
Okay.
Are they both Sharon Carters?
Yeah,
they
they're both sharing.
Are both the same character. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Okay.
So you can't technically include it, but you can. I gave you permission.
You should be able to.
Life model decoy. What if one's a life model decoy?
Yeah,
Multiverse.
exactly.
Multiverse.
No, you have on my authority that one of them is a life model decoy.
Okay.
Cool.
Nailed it. All right, should we move on to Ghost Spider? Should we keep going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Finally, to a hero that's exciting. Just kidding. So, Ghost Spider, aka Gwen Stacy, is the next hero we're going to talk about. She comes with the protection aspect, but you can forget about all that because first we're going to talk about her 15 cards. So, in her hero form, she has 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense, and 10 hit points at a hand size of 5 with the ability Dizzying Reflexes. Response: after you resolve an interrupt or response ability on an event, ready Ghost Spider, limit once per phase. So you're going to be looking to include lots of interrupt and response events in your deck. In her alter ego form, she has the action choose to either shuffle Ticket to the Multiverse from your discard pile into your deck or ready George Stacy. So normally I hate designs like this where there's like a bunch of cards that are calling out specific other cards. I start feeling like I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But with her, I feel like it really works because those 2 cards are super key to her kit. So we'll read what those do really quick. So George Stacy is a 1-cost support. Everybody has their dad now, right? Miles and Gwen both get their dad in their kit. It's real nice. Happy Father's Day. He's a persona, and events attached to George Stacy may be played as if they were in your hand. He has the action, not alter ego action, anything action. Exhaust George Stacy to attach one event from your hand face down here. I do them face up so that I can remember what they are. Pro tip. So you can store up to 3 events on him and then play them at the opportune time, which is perfect for protection because you hate holding on to those cards and burning resources, and now you can stash them under George. She has this upgrade, Ticket to the Multiverse, which is a double wild, and it's an upgrade that you put into play for 3 costs. It has the action, remove Ticket to the Multiverse from the game. So this is a one-time ability. Discard your hand, shuffle your discard pile into your deck, draw up to your hand size, and ready each Ghost Spider card you control. And I believe that includes Ghost Spider herself. So that's like a bonkers turn. And we'll talk about how you get it super bonkers later. But part of that is going to be having made sure you used all your Ghost Spider cards so you get to ready them. So the rest of Ghost Spider's kit is fairly concise around her dizzying reflexes. She's got 3 copies of Ghost Kick. That's a hero response after Ghost Spider uses a basic power, deal 6 damage to an enemy for 2 cost. So you can do that after defending, you can do that after thwarting, you can do that after attacking. So you can punch tough off and then hit for 6. And each time you do that, or once per phase when you do that, you're going to get to ready, which is really good. You've got 3 copies of Phantom Flip, which basically does the same thing for 2 cost, but it removes 5 threat from a scheme instead of dealing damage.
And it sounds like a skateboard trick.
And it sounds like a skateboard trick and looks like one. We have Pirouette and Punch, which is a really good card. Hero Interrupt. When a card is revealed from the encounter deck, deal damage to the villain equal to 1 more than the number of boost icons on that card, and cancel that card's when revealed effects. So this can even cancel like really nasty minion when revealed effects or side scheme when revealed effects, but usually it's used on a treachery. And this is one of the best cards to put under George Stacy because now you can hold on to your like encounter card cancel for that Shadows of the Past or for that advance or whatnot. She's got 2 copies of Web Binding, which is a activation cancellation. So it has requirements again, requires a mental resource, and it costs 2. Hero Interrupt. When an enemy would activate, cancel the activation. If it is a minion's activation, deal 4 damage to that minion. Really, really good. All those responses. And then, the last thing I wanted to mention before we summarize her kit up overall is her resource generator. So usually people have some sort of thing like the web shooters for Spider-Man. She's got really interesting resource generators. So they cost 2 and they're an upgrade. Item Tech Web Bracelet. Hero Response. After you resolve and interrupt a response ability for an event, exhaust Web Bracelet to draw 1 card. Max 1 per event. So if you get both copies down, you can't exhaust both on the same event, which really means you have to puzzle out your turn and figure out how do I use both of these each round. But her resource generator is just like straight up card draw, which is bonkers.
Amazing.
It's so good. So that's her kit. I think you really rely on having a lot of these responses and interrupts to do things. And one of the keys to her kit is figuring out when to play George and when to play Ticket to the Multiverse. So Ticket to the Multiverse is her only 2 resource card in her kit, but it's 2 wilds. And in Alter Ego form, you can shuffle it back into your deck. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to be using that to get out your web bracelets and to like ramp up your economy. But then eventually you want to play it to the board and then use its once per game ability. So deciding when the point is where I stop using this as a resource and start using it to like set up my big explosion is a really pivotal piece to her. And then George Stacy as well. This is my pro tip for piloting Gwen Stacy with George. Is Gwen's obligation is probably the nastiest obligation in the game. Yes. It says it's real bad sometimes and really good sometimes. It says search your deck, hand, and discard pile for George Stacy and set him aside. Attach this obligation. You have to flip to Alter Ego form and exhaust Gwen Stacy to add George back to your hand, and then you remove the obligation from the game. So if you're building up some big combo under George and you have 3 cards on him and this comes out,
goodbye.
It's like the worst feeling ever. So if you mulligan into George Stacy, you should definitely play him because he's good. But never stack more than 1 event on him. Like always stack an event and then immediately use it in the villain phase, because you don't want to lose 3 turns worth of George exhaustion to this obligation. And if you don't get him early, then like you'll be super happy when you draw this obligation, because he's going to go find him from the bottom of your deck or from your discard pile or whatever, and basically give you a reason to put him into your hand. So have to be a little bit careful when you use George Stacy, but
At least until you get rid of the obligation.
at least until you get rid of the obligation. Yep. So that's Ghost Spider. My favorite way to play Ghost Spider with Ticket to the Multiverse, just to let it be said to everyone, is with Assess the Situation. So Assess the Situation is a 0-cost event. You increase your hand size until the end of the phase, I think, by 1 when you play it. So if you get 3 copies of that on George, you can play all 3 copies and bump Ghost Spider's hand size up to 8. You can trigger Ticket to the Multiverse, which is going to shuffle those all back into your deck, and you're going to draw up to 8 cards. And if you draw them again, you can play them again, and then the next turn you get 11 cards when you draw up, which
Oh my
just
gosh.
like destroys the game at that point, because you're just drawing like 3 of them every turn, and you're like, fine, I'll constantly get my best cards. Sounds great. So that's my favorite combo with Ticket to the Multiverse. It's
Jeez.
silly stupid.
How do we compete with that? Like, what do you like to do? Is it 11 cards? Doesn't matter. What's the next thing you like to do?
Is it 11 cards? Oh, sounds like you're a bad hero.
Yeah,
Sounds
sounds like
Hawkeye. No.
I like web binding a lot. I like being able to cancel an enemy activation. That is huge. And if it's a minion, you can get some damage in on it. I really enjoyed web binding.
That's interesting. That's my least played one, because Gwen has 3 defense, and I played her in protection a lot. I always wanted the villain to attack me, because that's when I got to trigger all her other responses. So I was always like, oh, I could play web binding and do one of my web bracelets, but then I'm like, oh, but then I can't ghost kick Rhino in the face. That sucks. So I just take the attack, because I can defend with my 3, play ghost kick and ready, and it's like I canceled the activation, except I did damage too.
he's also stopped thwarts, though, right?
Damage.
I mean,
It does stop thwarts.
Yes,
Yeah,
but if you're playing multiplayer, you can stop him from scheming on your other person.
Oh my goodness. I've
Yeah.
been playing this as it only cancels attacks, and
Yep.
I already liked Ghost Spider.
Listeners,
And now
listeners,
it's just
book
moving up the
this.
list.
Book this. I actually knew how a card worked and presented the information. So Mark,
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, web binding is so fun. They're all such fun cards. That, and then the pirouette and punch. That's like, something about that is just really fun. How, I mean, just for some reason, it's, even though it costs 1 more than most similar canceling cards do, like Enhanced Spider Sense. For some reason, I do find myself using it quite often, or at least, I guess the fact that you can hold it on George for the right time is really handy.
Well, and it doesn't only cancel treacheries, right? There's some real nasty other when revealed cards out there.
That's facts.
That, like, she's not going to cancel the whole minion, but she can cancel the when revealed effects of that minion and maybe make it not so horrible.
So true. But I love all those. Phantom Flip is awesome. The 5 threat removal. And I just love the feeling of, like, leave a bunch of threat on the main scheme, hoping that I'm going to draw into her Phantom Flip, but not knowing that I'm going to. And so then the villain adds threat. I defend. I Phantom Flip to remove the threat. Then he advances. And if I hadn't Phantom Flipped, he would have schemed out. And it's her play is so exciting, and really, really, you are both saving cards with George Stacy, so you're kind of stacking the deck for yourself. But also, I think she's one of the heroes who, since you are planning to play so much in the villain phase, a lot of times you are hoping and calculating off of what's like remaining in your deck. So a lot of times I'm looking through my discard pile and being like, ooh, I haven't seen any of my ghost kicks yet. I'll leave this, this Sinister 6 villain minion out there, hoping I'm going to draw into a ghost kick so I can defend the villain, ghost kick the minion, and won't have to deal with that. That sort of play is so fun.
Yeah. Look, Miles is very strong. I did not enjoy playing Miles as much as I enjoyed playing Ghost Spider.
Yeah.
Ghost Spider blew me away. I'm instant fan. She's in my top 5.
Yep. Agreed on that entirely.
I love control aspects. She has all the control aspects. I'm playing her in protection, which is even stranger. And protection with some cards we're going to talk about later plus some previous cards, has a lot of interrupt or response cards that work so well with her.
What about you, Attercop? What have you thought about Gwen?
I wish that web bracelet was called Gweb bracelet.
I see what you did there. Inside jokes. I had a question about Gwen. It's gone now.
Yeah, that's what the attack does. It confuses.
Yeah, I have
as
been
you're thinking of
confused.
that-
I'm out.
As you're thinking of that, let me quickly jump in and say just a random tidbit that I thought was really fun. I didn't notice this at first, but when you look at her nemesis, it's the lizard, right? But it's not Kurt Connor's lizard. It's Peter Parker.
It's
lizard.
Pete.
And I didn't notice that at first. And my buddy pointed it out. And then this is kind of just great to me because I adore Into the Spider-Verse, the movie. But I didn't realize that it's the same way in the movie. There's like the super quick intro that she does to her character, and she mentions how she lost her best friend. And I thought the lizard killed Peter Parker in her universe, but Peter Parker was the lizard in her universe, and in her battle with him, he ended up dying. And
Good
so
old
I
Earth
was
65.
yeah. So I loved that. I loved learning about that, and it's just a pretty like dark and intense like thought of like what might have happened to Peter if he started looking for power in this other way. And yeah, it's cool.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I've seen a lot of people say that Ghost Spider doesn't like to flip. And I have had the opposite experience.
Yeah.
That early in the game, I am flipping constantly. I know she only has one thwart, so you have a lot to make back up. But you're going to be able to thwart for 6 with a Phantom Flip and catch back up. And being able to shuffle that ticket to the multiverse and use it like 2 to 3 times on your first deck pass, or like you can ready George Stacy and stack like double events under him and just explode the next turn. It just sets you up so fast. The one thing about go for it.
I think people may not be using Ticket to the Multiverse in the same way that I think we both thought that, it's got double resources, let me use it as much as possible early.
Yep.
I think a lot of people maybe just see that and immediately want to use its main ability because it is so powerful.
Yeah, the thing I noticed with Gwen is you can really burn a villain real fast if you have 6 cards in your hand. So if you have 2 Ghost Kicks in your hand, right, you can swing for 2, Ghost Kick for 6, ready, swing for 2, Ghost Kick for 6. You just did 16 damage in your first turn, and all you did was draw like 4 of anything and 2 copies of Ghost Kick. And if you draw into the third one when you're defending at the end of that phase, you can defend for 3 and Ghost Kick for another 6, and now you hit for 22
stage.
in the first round.
Yeah, that's a stage in most people.
I'm like, you don't need double resources. You don't need anything to do that. It's just
if I can bring up something from the comics here, as is my job, right?
Totally.
For anybody that's saying that Gwen doesn't like to flip, I have on really good authority that all of the Spider characters love to flip frequently. In fact, they do it a lot when they're swinging or crawling on the walls. They will flip and fight. So all of the characters actually enjoy flipping.
This is actually physically painful.
Yeah, no, I'm on.
I really appreciated that because I thought this was like a real comic fact at first.
Oh yeah,
it is a real comic fact, but
it is a real comic fact.
I appreciate it more now.
Oh, I'm dialed in tonight.
One piece could be that people might be. I know I sometimes forget this. Is parental guidance is an alter ego action. It's not.
Yeah.
I do sometimes forget that. I'll be honest, and so that's a big reason to flip because that's an amazing card. The fact that you can. I mean, you should never look into your hand, in almost any instance with this. This is attach 1 event from your hand or discard pile face down to George Stacy. The ability to reach back into your discard pile and grab, a Ghost Kick or Phantom Flip is so amazing. And in it, you have to do that in Alter Ego. So that's one reason to flip. But I would say she, to me, one of the things I find enjoyable about her is that you feel really rewarded when you do flip down, but I don't typically feel like I need to flip down. And so I like that dynamic. And as opposed to some people who it's like, okay, like you gotta flip to get Miss Marvel. You're kind of wasting stuff if you aren't flipping down and using her personas, for example. Yeah,
I would
that's
argue that you're wasting stuff with Gwen, but you don't even need your personas. You're wasting that double chap with George, and you're wasting the ticket to the multiverse. But that's just my play style. I know other people never flip with her, and they are very successful too. So she's clearly very good.
That's true. That's true. You know what's one interesting thing I'm just realizing as I'm staring at her cards? I've always thought it was kind of interesting that the way that she has like those, she has like a yellow background on like three of her events. Like just a very kind of almost gaudy, bright yellow background with almost like there's action coming off of it, and
It's almost like it's blonde.
well, no. Here's what I think. I think you're right. I think it does tie into like her kind of blondish hair, but I also think it actually looks almost like a hi hat or like a cymbal on a drum.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
I'd buy that.
and
Yeah.
and that's definitely what I'm gonna be thinking about more, because it's almost like when she's like punching that guy, it's just like you can almost hear the drums playing, as because she's just rocking out on the drums in her alter ego picture, and that's how it feels to play a Ghost Spider. She's just a ton of fun. It's like being in a band,
Yeah.
it's so fun.
To me, she was worth the box itself.
Yep, I agree.
All
I
right,
agree.
all right. We got to move to the green cards, but before that, what's your favorite card from your aspect that you're representing to play with Ghost Spider? So we'll have Andy go first because he's protection. So what's your favorite protection card? And I'm guessing they're all going to be responses or interrupts, right?
Yeah,
So.
no, totally. I was totally ready for this question in every aspect. But for protection, I would say pretty equally, I would say Defiance or Expert Defense. But Defiance, I think more so. Although it's nice having both in your deck. So Defiance is the one that's 0 cost. I think it's a hero interrupt when you would reveal or when you would flip over a boost card, you discard it instead. And the fact of not even having to deal with whatever boost effect might have been on that card or boost icons, and then you guarantee that you are defending the entire attack, and so you're triggering whatever else unflappable, hard to ignore, and it's a hero interrupt, so you're readying her and getting one of your web bracelets. It's just absolutely amazing, and I love it.
And that, do you cancel it before you flip it too, right? It's before you flip the card over, right? Okay,
yes.
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah,
So which again is my play style. Is I like that little push your luck of like not knowing totally. I almost like that better than if you got to know. I think it'd be too good if you don't see it.
I almost feel like every time I play it, I love that with her too. I always do it, and then it's like a 0 icon card, and I'm like, really? I guess I get to ready, but yeah, it's a really good card. All right, Crimson, what's your favorite Justice card?
There's not a lot of response or there's really not. One of the ones I wanted to be good but doesn't work with her because of her stats is Brains Over Brawn, but that is based off of her basic thwart. Make an entrance works, and I definitely don't think it's that bad of a card. It's when it costs 1 hero interrupt. When your hero makes a basic thwart, which you're going to have to do here and there, it's going to get +2 thwart for that thwart, which does kind of shore up one of her weaknesses, the lower thwart. And then after the thwart ends, if your hero removed all threat from a scheme this way, heal 2 damage to your hero. So if you hit a side scheme with it, you can get rid of the side scheme, heal up a little bit, and it only costs 1 to play it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right, what about aggression, Attercop?
I'm always looking for excuses to play surprise attack. Just because I like surprise attack. Also, I really like the art. But you can heal with her, flip, and then surprise attack and stand up and be ready for action.
That's awesome.
And that's pretty cool. Like it is narrow, but surprise attack costs 1. And surprise attack also has that sweet fist resource, so you know that it's good in aggression. So you'll find another use for it if you can't pull off the wombo combo.
In leadership, my favorite one is Last Stand. So I talked about
Yes.
the double Ghost Kick combo, but with Ghost Spider more than anyone else, I use allies not for chumping because I already have the 3 defense. Like my allies can actually use their stats for once, and I actually use Nick Fury to not draw cards because if I can do like that 16 in my opening hand with 2 Ghost Kicks, and I draw into Nick in the Last Stand on my next turn, I can play Nick Fury if I have enough cards or resources. He can deal 4 when he comes in. I can attack with Gwen for 2 to get to 6. Last Stand it's an interrupt that when an ally attacks, they get +3 for the attack, but then they get discarded at the end of the attack. So then Nick will go swinging for 2 plus the 3, so I'm up to 11 damage, and it stands Ghost Spider, and she can swing for another 2. So you've got like multiple 14 to 16 damage combos that don't require double resources in your hand, which is just insane.
I just played that today, and I think it might have been the first time I played with Last Stand, and it was so fun and so janky. It was awesome. Maria, I realized as I was in the middle of dealing out a ton of damage, and I realized I could get exactly enough damage to kill the villain on a turn I totally didn't expect to. I think I burned him like completely down through the second stage, and the last damage came from Maria Hill of all people, making a Last Stand for 4 damage.
If my decks are anything, they're janky, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do have an honorable mention.
Okay.
Lay Down the Law is also an interesting one with her. I know a lot of people don't like to flip with her, so for like me and Kennedy style, it's actually really good. It's after you change form, remove 3 threat from the scheme. Honestly, a lot of times we're gonna switch back over to Gwen, or we're gonna switch over to Gwen to get that multi-ticket back, and then switch the next turn we switch back over to Ghost Spider, and you could throw this out. Maybe you healed before you flipped over, and then boom, you get to untap her, you remove some threat, which is honestly her weaknesses. So it's not a big weakness because she has Phantom Flip, but to me, if you don't have 6 cards that remove threat, it's a weakness, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because one more thing before we move on to protection, because the flip cards, in my
Just putting it
opinion,
up
are actually
on purpose.
really good with Gwen because you can attach them to George Stacy. So a lot of people
Yeah.
complain about the flip cards. Oh, I draw this when I'm in hero form, and now I have to spend it as a resource. Well, no, you don't. You can put it on George. Now you know you can flip down because you're going to have an awesome response when you jump up. And even if you don't get to ready from that response, you can draw a card off Web Bracelet with it. So like it's like
Yeah.
Moxie, Late on the Law, Perseverance are so good because of George.
Yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
play style. I think it's just our play style, the way we think when we play some of these more combo-y stuff. And I think, yeah, you can go full beater with her, but man, she's so much fun when you put a little bit more chest into her.
I like to live dangerously and let Rhino get the 6th threat every time I can.
Don't do
Imagine
that.
All right.
thinking when you're playing cards.
Let's let Attercop finally have his turn talking about these gross green cards.
This is a mixed bag because like it is my turn, but also protection cards. So Silk, the first card. Are we on the same page?
Woo.
First card, Silk. Okay,
Yep,
great.
so
Yeah, so Silk
greatest
is
superhero ever.
pretty awesome as Krim is shouting from his rooftop. It is a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart and 1 attack, both with 1 consequential. She's got 2 health. She's got the Web Warrior keyword response. Are you guys sitting at least for this?
Yep.
Okay. After you play Silk from your hand, if you control another Web Warrior card, search the encounter deck for a treachery and discard it. Just see you later.
Hang on, that's worded wrong. It should say search for shadows of the past and never get rid of it.
Never get shadowed
goodbye.
again.
Goodbye, shadows. Oh, thank you, Silk.
Why not just play Wrecking Crew?
If only she could get rid of an obligation.
Yeah, no joke.
Just play Wrecking Crew.
Under Fire is my one. Oh gosh, I love getting that out.
I just take advance and I rip it in half and throw it in the trash can when I play Silk. I've gone through like 7 core sets now.
Yeah, I know that the right play is probably Shadows, but it's hard for me to resist just saying like "see you later" to
Advance.
Yeah, sorry, I blanked for a second there. Thank you.
Or breakout or the cut off guard. Oh,
Well,
don't
we're
mind
not
Taught Off
talking about
Guard.
Nemesis sets today, but her Nemesis set isn't even that bad, so I don't mind if Shadows comes up. It's just a minion that I
So
one-shot
true.
and like a
But-
side scheme that I can usually ignore.
I think she has the least difficult Nemesis set of all
For the
time. but-
table, Kennedy.
Yeah.
It's to help the table out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leadership,
That's
right?
a you problem.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. Tried. This
There
is
it is.
certified hood classic. All right. So we have Spider-Man ally. This one's miles, or like I said before, kilometers. It is a 4-cost ally with 1 thwart and 2 attack, both 1 consequential, 3 health, and Web Warrior. You guessed it. Response: after you play Spider-Man from your hand, stun and confuse an enemy if you control at least 3 Web Warrior cards. So, I mean, if you're playing one of the Web Warrior heroes, if you're playing allies, I don't think this is super hard to get.
No.
Pretty straightforward there. Spider UK. He's got
yeah.
3 cost. He's a 3-cost ally. He's got 1 thwart for 1 consequential, 2 attack for 2 consequential, 5 health, and also the Web Warrior keyword. Interrupt. When Spider UK defends against an attack, deal damage to the attacking enemy equal to the number of Web Warrior cards you control. That seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, I actually like him too.
Like at face value, but then you realize like it is a minion taking that hit, so he's not going to stay around doing that every turn. But still cool, still a big beefy minion. We have Bait and Switch, a 1 cost of the art's so sweet. I want to say that I've seen this before, but maybe not.
Yeah, it came in one of the previous packs too. Yep, it's a reprint.
That would be why. Oh, I meant the art though. I think I feel like it's old like Versus System art or something like that. I don't know. I'm probably wrong. But
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that-
came out in another pack, totally. I'm just
No, the art does feel familiar, but it is very well done art.
Yeah.
we've got another skateboard trick. The 1-cost event Jump Flip with the defense keyword Hero Interrupt Defense. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 2 of that damage. If you paid for this card using a energy resource, remove 2 threat from the main scheme. So kind of like Sidestep, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, very good card for protection.
Yeah, I like
and
the
same thing with
prevent
Bait and Switch.
Yeah, sure. Especially, I mean, in conjunction, right? We're getting them in the same box. Try pulling them together. They're pretty cool, I promise. We have Return the Favor, another great Spider-Man art. For 0-cost event, it is an attack, hero action attack. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a treachery. Reveal that treachery. Deal 5 damage to the villain. So more treachery control, sort of. It kind of lets you brace for impact if you sort of know what you're getting.
Yep. Or if you just have maybe some extra cancels in your hand and you want to get them used up,
Yeah,
it's a great
that's
way
true
to
too.
cancel. Get a treachery on the board so you can cancel it, or use other things that require treacheries being played. It gives you the control.
I do like the literal bait and switch of pulling up the treachery just so that you can counter it and get more value out of your hand.
Yeah.
That's really good. We've got What Doesn't Kill Me. This is a protections requirement card. It's a 2-cost event with requirement of physical. Hero action, heal 2 damage from your hero. Ready your hero. Pretty spectacular. It does cost you.
Interesting.
You do have to have 2 damage, just like momentum shift. But you get to heal and you get a ready. Like that's awesome. That's so good. It is an action though, so you can't like use it in the middle of other stuff like while you're defending. So that kind of stinks. But you know you can't have everything, I'm told. Running down to the basic
Basics.
cards. Yeah, we have. Honestly, when I was looking at these cards, I got worried at first. But he showed up in the end in the basics. We got Spider-Man, or Spider-Punk, as you might know him. He's a 3-cost ally with 2 thwart for 2 consequential, 1 attack for 1 consequential, with 3 health. The Web Warrior keyword. He can only be played if you control a Web Warrior card, so he only shows up if you've got the homies already. Interrupt. When Spider-Man leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. Deal damage to the villain equal to the number of boost icons discarded this way. Pretty cool. I like it. He comes in, he does his thing, and on the way out, he leaves a parting gift. Pretty sweet. Have you guys had any luck with anything explosive from him?
8 damage on like the first time I've tried him. I was like, this is insane.
Yes.
I haven't, unfortunately, but I enjoyed playing him. I thought he was good. I used him for a thwart and 1 jump block, and then he did like 3 damage on the way out, which was nice.
Good value. Has anybody played with Scarlet Witch?
No.
That'd be nice.
And just turn him into a walking bomb, depending. I mean, if her side scheme is out, right? Doesn't he just kind of super explode?
Oh.
Her nemesis side scheme is as you count all icons 1 more.
That might be only when they're used as a boost. I'm not sure. I'd have to read the text on Amplify. I'll find out.
I'm pretty sure it combos with Hexbolt, right?
Yeah, it should. Maybe.
Yeah, I might be wrong about this.
I don't know. I don't play Scarlet Witch that much.
You should. You're missing out. She's a lot of fun.
I think the crest. Wouldn't the crest do it?
The crest would definitely do it.
Yeah.
But I think the side scheme does too. But moving on.
Yeah, so Amplify says when a boost card is turned face up during an enemy activation, add 1 boost icon to the card for each Amplify icon in play.
That's not the Amplify icon. It's the text on the side scheme, right?
Oh, never mind. I'm just behind by like a year.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Doesn't it add an extra 1 to every card?
Yeah, anytime you count boost icons, it adds +1 to it.
Oh wow! So he must.
I mean, it's a wombo combo, but
if only she was a web warrior. Yeah.
If only she when can we get honorary web warrior?
Yeah.
Okay,
so she can just play leadership with him, right, and just make the call.
We're building web warriors today, boys.
Yeah, because I'd like to change my Spider Woman.
We've got Across the Spider-Verse, 2-cost event, max 1 per deck, hero action, exhaust a web warrior you control. Search your discard pile for a web warrior ally and put it into play. Then choose a player. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this ability. Am I to understand that you could just keep paying for this?
Yep, for yourself.
Yeah.
Picking yourself and playing your 11-card Gwen Stacy handout and just grabbing all the homies back.
The one downside is it doesn't work with Silk because Silk says played from hand. It also has Silk on the artwork, so it's a good card to begin with. I want a Silk character card.
I don't think that we're that far off from it, honestly.
No, I don't think we are either.
Yeah, I think it's going to get a lot better as there's more Web Warrior allies coming out, for sure. Here's an interesting rules question. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this ability. Does Power in All of Us count as 2 resources?
Yeah, because you're spending them. It's when you spend...
You know what I'm saying?
I don't go into rules places like that.
Okay.
There's a show all about that, and we'll submit that
That's
question.
Right. That's right.
Does Power of Leadership work with Make the Call?
Only if it's a leadership ally.
What?
No,
there's no way.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
That can't be the official rule.
That's the rule they've
It
given.
is.
So if you want to make the call
right.
Nick Fury, you have to use Power in All of Us to double it.
Which is great. I love doing make the call decks with a bunch of Power in All of Us. It's so fun. You can grab all of your other people's basic allies. It's great.
I'm marked on the other side of the post-it note. Talked about a card and didn't know the rules.
Because here's the thing that's making me think this is CITT. That does work to use Power in All of Us. Is what I understand. For the 2 resources, since it's my understanding, and we can submit that one too. But it does work for that since it's a basic card that's asking you to spend 2 resources.
Right, and they've ruled that you can use Spider-Woman's Finesse on Yarnbjorn. We're getting off track. We're talking about what?
Yes.
Across the Spider-Verse, right?
We're literally going across the Spider-Verse right now. Welcome to
are.
MCM, which is the podcast about Marvel Champions, where we roundtable and we get questions together for the card talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also have a copy of Young Love, which we've talked about before, and we have Web of Lies, Web of Life, and Destiny, which is a 3-cost support. Sometimes ignore this card's resource cost if your identity has the Web Warrior trait. Response: after a Web Warrior ally leaves play, choose a player. That player draws 1 card. That's pretty awesome. I mean, it is so free. It's unbelievable if you're playing these heroes.
Yeah, it's an amazing card, and of course it has a Web Warrior trait, so that's
Right.
perfect for
So it
personal
makes everything a
coverage.
little easier to trigger or play, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the greatest art in the box, Plan B, a 1-cost upgrade. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Hero action, exhaust Plan B and discard 1 random card from your hand. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. I'm so into this card; it's ridiculous.
Have
It
you
has.
played this card with Hulk yet?
I haven't. Should I be?
You're
It
going to
was-
discard your cards anyway, right? So you may
Might
as
as
well
well
discard a
strike 'em.
random one and deal 2 damage. And it's got a punchy face resource.
And it's got Spider-Ham on it, and that is Howard the Duck adjacent.
Did we skip over Web? Web
Skip
of
over.
Life and Destiny?
No, we talked about Web and how it doesn't have Silk, so it's a bad card, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
that's what we said. That's what we said.
We said it
It's
for you.
still an amazing card.
Oh, we're gonna have to edit it then.
All right.
And yeah, that is everything.
So, favorite new protection cards through the round table. Attercop. Or basic card from this chunk, either way.
Honestly, I like Plan B a lot.
I thought you might say that.
Plan B makes me really happy just to see it like on the table and just to have the art be the art they chose. I'm just so happy with that card.
All right. Andy.
I think Jump Flip. I just really, really love it. Speaking of good art, I really love that art of Gwen. Even though people, rightly say that she could be a little bit awkward using it. I really think it's just a fun card. And remember when Protection didn't have any threat removal? I love seeing threat removal and Protection. It's so fun.
I want to say Web of Life and Destiny because it's an amazing card, but Silk is in this pack, so Silk.
Yeah.
Hard to argue with it.
I'm going to go with Jump Flip. I wish that it wasn't threat from the main scheme and it was any scheme, but it's still really good. And it's really good for heroes that have a hard time taking a punch like Hawkeye. So it's the most Hawkeye useful card here. So I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. Like it's true.
All right. We've got our rapid fire questions. So I'm going to read the question and then shut off your names and you give me the first answer that comes to your mind. Ready?
Oh boy.
I'm so stressed out.
Okay.
I'm super stressed out.
If you were going to go set up a solo game right now to play Marvel Champions and you had to pick Miles or Gwen, who would you pick? Attercop.
Miles.
Andy.
Gwen.
Crimson.
Gwen.
Myself, Gwen. Who would you rather have as your partner in a 2-player game? Andy.
Miles, because I would want to be playing Gwen.
Well, you could play any character. Who do you want to team up with? There you go.
Miles would be great.
Miles still. Okay. Crimson.
Gwen.
Gwen, so she could defend with me. And Attercop.
Gwen? I'm sorry. Whoops, I said Gwen. I meant Miles. Miles, so that he could keep the table tied up while I set up my lumbering shoot machine.
You could make use of that for Miles. It's true. Who would you pick to play with as the better character to pair with your aspect of choice? So for aggression, Attercop. Miles aggression? Okay.
Miles aggression,
Crimson
absolutely.
for justice.
Gwen. Because it's kind of her weakness anyways.
Yep. I'm going to say Gwen for leadership because she can play it differently, which is cool. And then Andy for protection.
Yeah, protection, or Gwen for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I need to give a shot in protection, but she's just so fun in protection.
All right. Who is your favorite of the two to deck build with? Andy.
Gwen, yeah, 100%. I love all the different ways you can play her. And we never mentioned this card, Warning, is so fun with her. I put a copy or two of Warning in every aspect with her. And also, I just Skilled Strike in an aggression deck is so fun. I love finding all those just wonderful interrupts. So, Gwen.
Okay. Crimson.
Gwen.
Favorite for deck building.
Yeah, Gwen.
Okay. So you're just Gwen straight down the ticket.
Yeah.
Dude, me and Andy are on the same page. I'm just saying.
For deck building, I'm going to say Miles because I like that he has access to Alter Ego and can jump back up. He makes use of all those Alter Ego cards like Plan of Attack and Assault Training that people usually ignore. So, Attercop.
It's actually Gwen because it's making me look at other cards again. Look for all the cool interrupts and responses and stuff.
You want to hear something fun?
I do.
Yarnbjorn Mean Swing, Gwen. There you go.
Yes.
Just try
now
that.
we're talking.
All right. Who would you rather have lunch with, Miles or Gwen? Andy.
Oh gosh, Gwen, because I want to learn more about her dad and if he's as cool a dad as he is in real life as he is as a card.
Okay. Crimson.
Probably Miles.
Okay. Attercop.
Probably Gwen. I think we'd agree on music a lot more.
That's what I was thinking. I feel like I could talk with Gwen about music, and I'm too out of touch to talk with Miles. He's beyond me. All right, and who is your favorite hero from the new box? So, Crimson, I think we know your answer.
Silk.
No, hero.
Yeah, no, it's Gwen.
Hero.
Okay. Attercop.
It's Miles. I think it's awesome.
All right. Andy.
It's Gwen. She's so fun.
It is Gwen for me. That is 3-1. So.
Nice.
Oh, our opinions are wrong.
You aggression player. No, I'm just kidding.
That's cool. I get it. I play like a monkey. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Miles is great though, and anyone think he's boring or anything? I think that's overrated.
I think they're boring.
He's fun. Yeah, exactly.
Miles is just really strong. He's a very strong character, but it's kind of the same.
He's fun.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, Crimson. Next thing is closing remarks, so you can go first. Give us your one-sentence review of Miles and a grade, like a 5th grade math teacher, and your one-sentence review of Ghost Spider.
You know what? Power level of Miles. He's got a high power level, decently easy to pilot. Definitely worth playing, especially if you're a newer player. You're going to really enjoy him, and he's going to be able to stand toe-to-toe with most things. I'd definitely put him in A rank. Gwen, a little bit more deck building going to be involved with her. She's going to play a lot differently and going to make you look at a lot of different cards. And it just becomes very fun with the control aspects that she brings. For me, she's also an A character for now. She may go up to S later.
Okay. Andy.
Yeah, Gwen is a straight A. She's just so fun to play, so fun to build for, so fun to look at cards and see how they play. And as more cards come out, she's going to get more and more fun as well. So she's a straight A for me. And then for Miles, I'd say an A minus for me. He's I think he's going to be very beginner friendly, like with Kennedy's experience. And he's powerful. He's got a cool different thing to him. He's an A minus, I'd say.
All right, Attercop.
Miles, I'm giving a pretty firm A plus. Just like you said, he basically does what you'd expect on the package. He shows up, he stuns things, he's hard to put down, and that's cool. I like that a lot. That's how I want to play. And he's got enough decision points that he's not the Hulk. Gwen is obviously another A hero. Both of these heroes are spectacular. The value in this box is nuts, and we'll get into more of that later. But being able to like I think I've mentioned it before on a different cast, but being able to look at the old pool of cards and find new things to do with your old cards is so satisfying, and Gwen brings that
Yes.
to the table. So that's like old like binder cards are now cool. Like I mean, Andy literally said that he puts Warning into decks, which is like a year ago would have gotten him like kicked off of everywhere, the internet. So here we are.
All right. I would give Miles a S tier, A plus rating for power, but a firm B minus for design and fun. I think he is a little too strong for my tastes in this game. And I do agree he has more interesting decision points than Doctor Strange, who's probably my least favorite hero because he just raffle stomps everything. But I still think he trivializes a lot of the game, which I find to be not super entertaining. But I think in multiplayer he works out just fine because he can't really stun and confuse lock the villain like he can in solo. Gwen, I give an A for power level. I think she is super strong, and she, like other event-based heroes, is one of those heroes that's like every time a new pack comes out and you see a response or interrupt event, you're gonna be like, I should put this in Gwen and see how it works. So I love that. I think that's going to be awesome for the lifespan of the game. And I think that fun wise, I give Gwen like very high remarks. She is, and this could just be Cult of the New because it's only been 3 or 4 weeks, but she is a top 3 hero for me, hands down. Like every aspect, I enjoy playing with her so far. So I really, 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 really like Gwen and her hero kit. And that's our Hero Pack Miles vs. Gwen episode. So let us know in the comments or on Facebook how right or wrong we are, which hero you like better, which hero you think is stronger, or what your favorite decks are with these heroes, and we'll check them out. Next episode, we will cover at least the first 3 villains of Sinister Motives. These box episodes are always really long, so sometimes we split it into 3 episodes. So we'll see how much we chit chat like we did this episode, and it might end up being 2. But
So much
tune in next time for encounter card information from this box. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next time.
Peace.
Hi, everybody.